Heavensward is the first expansion to Final Fantasy XIV Online as it exists today. Heavensward is a massive improvement over the base game, A Realm Reborn, and a masterclass on how to construct atmosphere. Besides the improvements over ARR in basically every area, my favorite thing about Heavensward is the setting. The Gothic architecture in Ishgard, the city-state where Heavensward is based, is enormous and elaborate to an extent that is just surreal. The surrounding areas, named Kurthus, are also expansive and empty. The scale of the environment design really helps sell the story of Heavensward. The persistent snowfall and overexpansive empty areas add to this atmosphere as well, even though they are overexpansive, empty, and tedious to traverse. I keep thinking about Heavensward. The story and gameplay are fine, great even, and I can't speak to the state of that damn MMO at the time of Heavensward's release, but what really keeps this expansion stuck in my head is its setting. The feeling of this place in Eorzea is serene and beautiful, but also clearly wounded, traumatized, and still. The atmosphere is perfectly matched to the setting and story. About that, there will be light area and dungeon spoilers in this video, and of course I'll try to play little segments of the songs, so there's your spoiler warning. I will not be talking about or spoiling anything to do with the story events directly. I keep thinking about the quiet moments in Heavensward, when everything is bleak and it feels impossible to fight against the 1,000 years of inertia, or lack thereof, in Ishgard. I keep thinking about whenever I was sitting around waiting for Duty Finder to pop, with the whistle of the wind and snow obscuring the beautiful soundtrack behind an opaque sheet of frost, or when I took the overlong, lonely treks from one side of the barren maps to the other. This region of the world is frozen in time, frozen in thought, and isolated from the rest of the world. These quiet moments, this lonely constructed atmosphere, and how it matched up with not only the story of Ishgard, but the journey of your character as the Warrior of Light, really sold me on FF14 overall. The OST smothers Heavensward with a feeling that is seamless with the themes and tone of the story. So I'm gonna just kind of rant about the soundtrack for a little bit. This is a very loosely structured kind of thing. I want to start with a song that can be heard in the base game, A Realm Reborn, because I had to talk about this track somewhere, and this song can still be heard in-game in Heavensward and all future 14 expansions I've played as well. The song is called By Design and often plays during non-voiced cutscenes. The way the percussion is syncopated and the orchestra does this interlocking polyrhythm kind of thing tickles me as someone who enthusiastically played in high school percussion ensemble. And I just wanted to share this cute detail with you. You spend a lot of time in the overworld areas in Heavensward, so I guess I could tackle that next. Lots of these area themes contain low-pitched stringed instruments which betray this sinister undercurrent to a light and unassuming piano or string instrument on top. Weirdly though, it's a dungeon, the Dusk Vigil's theme, Descent, that I think best embodies the sinister underbelly / peaceful stuff on top style of composition. Rocky percussion and faint vocals are placed under tubular bells and shaky, organic-sounding wind chimes that give the Dusk Vigil a serene but haunted vibe, even if I think the dungeon itself is kinda lame. A lot of the soundtrack's instrumentation is sparse and empty. Black and White, the Kurthus Western Highlands night theme, for example, is a solo piano. I think this is a really powerful way to shape a piece, and it's cool how it evokes that same inert, isolated, lonely feeling that all the non-soundtrack elements of Heavensward do. It's still a very powerful and emotional track. There's lots of expression in this solo piano. It's just lonely and still. This expansion and overworld area are not the only of their kind to use a solo piano piece for a nighttime theme. In fact, this is very common in FF14 especially, but it is the correct square peg for this square hole. when the soundtrack isn't busy being empty, it's bursting with instruments and layers and feels epic in the literary sense. It fits a Final Fantasy game very well, but especially this area within Eorzea, which is grand in itself, citing again the architecture, landscape, and ideas presented in our trip to Kurthus. My favorite example that showcases each end of this full empty spectrum is the daytime theme for the Churning Mists Landlords. The boomy concert bass drum paired with the harpsichord and this plunky wandering string melody underneath gives an uneasy feel. There are other percussion elements like cymbals and a gong. There's another instrument threatening the piece as well, which is maybe a whip or a rain stick or both. I couldn't tell you. Maybe somebody recognizes this sound and can tell me what instrument this is that they echo? Whatever the case, its contribution is heard loudly and with much force. Eventually, most instrumentation drops from the composition and we're left with just the church organ, whip, and bass drum, and the omnipresent wandering strings. Then a violin whispers back with this airy counter-melody. The organ then replies even stronger, more sinister this time, and frightens away even those plucky strings from the soundscape, in addition to everything else. That whip or rainstick or something is notably still there, though. When the organ is done talking, these buzzy wind and string instruments come in with a simple hand drum of some kind, like a djembe maybe, or djembe. For lack of a better word, the instrumentation turns tribal. This collection of instruments shares more characteristics with the organ and bass drums group than the strings, including a mimic of that whip or rainstick. A similar sound played similarly, but clearly as its own instrument. This new group also mimics the church organ by playing some very intimidating low-pitched notes with its respective pipes, except these pipes are playing a much kinder and more hopeful tune than the malevolent organ. God, it's just perfect, and so representative of Heavensward overall, but especially its original soundtrack. I also love the Sea of Clouds nighttime theme. It makes me feel sleepy and comfortable, and yet it still has this subtle energy to it. Close to the Heavens is somewhere between a waltz and a march. It could be 4/4, and it has this forward marching feel, but it's very syncopated and can't seem to maintain a consistent tempo. It is like someone is cheerily playing piano and harp while drifting off to sleep. The left hand of the piano groggily speeds up, trying to keep pace before it degenerates into these tritones and other discordant, ominous elements. Before snapping back awake to this marching, playful, but sleepy little tune. Oh my gosh, this is out of nowhere, but the Great Google Libraries theme? It's so weird and scary, almost artificial at times, but also so jazzy with the company of a deep, groovy bass line. It's weirdly nostalgic and soulful, but also alien, choppy, and uncanny. The track never reaches a solid stasis or happy place, as if it's unstable and could fall apart or implode at any moment. These opposing organic and uncanny impulses fight back and forth throughout the entire piece. They reach some kind of an equilibrium with this fast-paced section, but it feels forced and unnatural still. Then they reach a much more stable position when there is this programmed percussion or synth jamming out with the ride cymbal, bass drum, and piano. Compared to the other groove, this one settles in a much more comfortable place. But something breaks, and the piano eventually changes qualities from a more traditional instrument to being played in an uncanny, untrained way, accompanied by the bass, also playing in this clumsy alien manner. There is no more groove. It's so cool how they trade back and forth like this, and how they tell that audio story by swapping the instrumentation, sure, but also how they write and perform each instrument to embody each aspect of these natural-unnatural impulses. Each instrument has an opportunity to take on both of these, aspects, and I think that's really cool. You should check out this track. Ink Long Dry. Just because. Especially if you have nice headphones that can make all the weird details that much more obvious. The Forgotten Nights theme, thicker than a knife's blade, is perfect for a warm, cozy bar and inn situated in this chilly and uninviting place. It has the most familiar instruments from the rest of the Heavensward OST. Those same hopeful piano melodies return in this piece, which complement the accompanying delicate strings and gentle bells. This kind, not the other kind. Or the other kind. Not to mention the heart. I especially appreciate how they play around with dynamics and volume to escalate tension and create drama without shattering the safe, comfortable feeling that this track gives you. The picture it paints is of being in this frozen, desolate place, but something about the rest of the painting is still warm and inviting. You are in the cozy place at the center of an eerie, frozen, eternal storm. It's like a hot cuppa in all the frost. Before I move on to my last example, there are a bunch of tracks that I love which I just couldn't fit as much as the others. Painted Foothills is a daytime theme that is an incredible highlight of the lush instrumentation overall. And Painted Skies, the nighttime theme for the same area, uses a solo piano. But unlike Black and White, which used that solo piano to an isolated, lonely, suffocating feeling, this track uses the grand piano to fill the room with a boomy, dramatic statement of hope. Order Yet Undeciphered is another highlight of mine. It's very hype. The marching bass drum and low horns give the track a very proud, steady, and time-sensitive presence. There's something about it that's great for a preparing for battle kind of song. Upon the Rocks is another song that would fit that bill, but I think that piece is filled with a little bit more anxiety and dread. It doesn't embody the same confidence as Order Yet Undeciphered, it's just uneasy and unsure, teetering on the precipice between total conviction and complete despair. It's more of a final push to win the battle song than a preparing for war kind of song, though neither Order Yet Undeciphered or Upon the Rocks are actually used in those contexts. The former song is another daytime area theme, and the latter is actually another dungeon theme. Poison Ivy is my final honorable mention as a curious and sleepy little track that just stuck with me for some reason. If I had to pick just one song, the Ishgard Night theme is most representative of what I think of whenever I remember the Heavensward soundtrack. Although that's maybe because the official complete composition has 10 minutes of room to breathe and showcase everything in Heavensward audio language. Night in the Broom starts with a solo piano playing the main Heavensward motif. Soon enough, there's a symphony of strings playing subtly in the background. What I think is a harpsichord comes in next, interrupting the piano, but the strings are happy to switch sides and accompany the harpsichord instead. Soon enough, the organ pipes in with something loud to say as usual and menacingly stands over the harpsichord and strings in the mix. All we hear next is the string and harpsichord, playing a couple arpeggiated, rising chords, until the piano takes over with an accompanying string, playing a slower, sadder, almost depressed interpolation of the main Heavensward motif. So, Night in the Broom has all of those call and response moments between the church organs and other instruments. It also does that familiar shift from being cold, sad, and imposing to warm, inviting, or even hopeful. There's some kind of lute or related stringed instrument that plays a segment with what might be a vibraphone after the depressed piano, and it is so toasty and hospitable, like a close friend. After the vibraphone is done cheering up the piano comes back with the strings, expressing something vibrant and with much enthusiasm. And then the organ comes back again, and shares equal space with the vibraphone and piano. They each take turns rising in intensity, arguing with each other, and the organ ultimately gets the last word, though not without a fight. Ishgard's Night theme very effectively plays with instrumentation, call and response elements, and dynamics to express specific musical and narrative ideas. If you do understand the story of Heavensward, paying close attention to the soundtrack will reward you with an additional layer of cohesion between the soundtrack and the video game it belongs to. Similarly, playing the video game of Heavensward will give you an extra appreciation for the soundtrack. Every crunchy step in the snow on your journey through Heavensward is coated in the drama and tragedy of the OST. The soundscape and ambiance that you are bathing in this whole time just won't let you forget about the tragedy, the struggle, and the pain inflicted in over 1,000 years of bloody, unforgiving conflict. Each new area unlocked will reinforce this as well as you go from this city-state to each surrounding area and unravel how they have all affected each other. There is one tragic melody for every broken or abandoned civilization and those who now inhabit those ruins. There is one painful note for every life taken or displaced in the name of war, of hurt, for revenge that is called justice. Each shed tear, every tragic, unnecessary, merciless conquest is represented in both the soundtrack and the video game itself. You can just listen to the title track, Heavensward, to understand the sorrow this game, story, and soundtrack are putting on display. You can feel the pain of the Dragon Song War in these vocals. You can feel the sobbing, the despair, the yearning to escape this cycle of violence during every strained note and painful pause. This seemingly tiny little phrase from the cello is filled with just so much expression. It gives me chills and makes me tear up every single time. God damn, I love the Heavensward soundtrack. Thank you, Masayoshi Sokun, and everyone else involved in making this soundtrack from top to bottom. I couldn't possibly do this soundtrack justice with words, no matter the time and knowledge afforded me. If you've got any appreciation for orchestral music, you should give the soundtrack a complete listen. And if you're a fan of FF14 and Heavensward and you haven't given the soundtrack a listen divorced from that damn MMO, then you should give it a complete listen as well. It's one hell of a symphony. If you liked this video, like this video. And if you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe. If you want, leave a comment about your favorite song in FF14 or Heavensward or video games or just whatever you're listening to. I love to talk about music. It's just easier to write about video games.